Hello students. Today we are going to see a chapter which is known as adaptations in different ecosystems. Okay, so you say, for example, all of you are in Hyderabad today. Okay, right. Now if I am taking an example of Hyderabad, now in Hyderabad there are various organisms which are living. Say for example, you have human beings, you have cows, you have buffaloes, you have plants, you have say pigs living. Okay, then you have some snakes also living, you have butterflies living, you have birds living. Okay, so in a particular area, if many organisms are existing together under favorable environmental conditions, okay, so that particular thing or that particular area is called as a ecosystem. Okay, right? And because that proper conditions and proper ecosystems are present in Hyderabad, all these organisms are able to live together in harmony. Okay, now these organisms have adapted themselves. Okay, these organisms have what? They have adapted themselves for this particular environment. Say for example in Hyderabad. Okay, now if we go to say the Himalayas, okay, you will see a variety of organisms which are living there. Okay, and if you go to say Meghalaya, you will see different organisms living there. Okay, then if you go to say Gujarat, or if you go to say Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or Telangana, okay, and if you go to central India, you will see wide varieties of organisms living together. Okay, now be it plant or animal. Okay, right? So they are living together. Now how are they living together? Now depending upon the conditions that the nature is throwing to them, okay, they are actually adapting themselves. Okay, they are adapting themselves structurally as well as behaviorally. Okay, so according to the environment, the structure of the organism is defined or it is evolved. Okay, and according to the behavior, okay, the adaptation of the organism also is being decided. Okay, right? Now basing on that only, you have adaptations, which is classified into two types, that is structural and behavioral. Okay, behavioral. Okay, right? So you have structural and behavioral adaptations. Okay, now when we are talking about structural adaptations, it's that it is built in that particular organism. Okay, it is built in that particular organism. Now I will give you an example here. Now we take dogs. Okay, we take dogs. Okay, now dogs, if you see dogs in Hyderabad or any other country that is in the southern states, they will not have much of a fur on their body. Okay, on this, that is why they don't have fur on their body, because here the climatic conditions are different. If they have more fur on their body, then that means what? They will have to put more heat on their body. So the dogs will not be able to survive in more heat. Okay, now similarly, if I see a dog in Shimla, okay, that dog will be having a lot of fur on its body. Okay, right? It will be having a lot of fur in its body. Now why that fur? Because in Himalayan conditions, that is in Shimla, because it belongs to the Himalayan range, in Shimla you will have a lot of cold temperatures. So the dogs have to adapt themselves structurally to make their body having a little more fur. Okay, when they have a little more fur, what is happening? The dog, though it looks fluffy, but it is able to trap the heat which is in the fur. Okay, right? Similarly, if you say go to behavioral instinct, okay, so behavioral instincts are what? They are naturally acting. They are developed at that particular area in that particular instinct. Okay. Okay, so it is basically naturally acting. It is called as natural acting, that is adapting to that particular condition of the environment naturally is what is called behavioral. Okay, right? Now, when we are talking about ecosystems and adaptations, okay, so ecosystems are what I said before, a large community of organisms live in a confined area, okay, and they live in a harmony. They have adapted themselves. So these two are very much closely related to each other. Now, when we talk about adaptations like say structural and behavioral, okay, we have to understand here that adaptations are seen in both plants and animals, okay, right? So in today's session we will be looking at the plants, okay, adaptations of plants, and in the later session we will be looking at animals, okay, right? So let's move on to the next part of the chapter. So please understand, today we are going to learn about plant adaptations. It's very simple, okay, and it is very, very easy to understand, okay, right? Let's move on. So plant adaptations, okay, right? So you can see what these plants are, okay, cactus, Venus flytrap, and this one is called as the dahlia plant, okay, right? Now, moving on, types of adaptations. Now, what I did is, first I have demarcated the types of adaptations in the first slide itself. Now here I'm trying to define them, okay? So when we talk about types of adaptations, I told you earlier they are structural adaptations and behavioral adaptations, okay? Now we'll see the definitions of them. So structural adaptations are the way something is built or made. So how is the organism built or made? That means how is the plant built or made, okay, right? So say for example, this is a cactus plant, this is a structure. You can see how fat this cactus plant is, and you see this Venus flytrap as well, okay, right? So the structures are adapted in such a way that they are suited for that particular atmospheric or climatic conditions, okay? We'll see them in detail once we go further in the chapter, okay? Now, so structural adaptations are the way something is built or it is made, okay? Then you have behavioral adaptations. Now, when we are talking about behavioral adaptations, they are the way something acts naturally or by an instinct, okay? So how is that particular organism acting or reacting to that particular environment is what is the behavioral adaptations, okay? Now, say for example, if I take you to a very, very sunny place, say Rajasthan, I take you there, okay, and I make you stand on the desert, okay? Now, when you stand in the desert, what you will do first? You will try to open your shirt and do this, okay? All these instincts will be done by you, okay? Now, when we are doing those instincts, why you're doing that? Because your body is sweating, okay? That is the behavior that your body is showing, okay? And you naturally try to do these kind of instincts because why? Because it is very sunny outside, you are sweating, your shirt is sticking to your skin and it is very, very filthy, okay? Now, same thing, I take you to Shimla or I take you to say Jammu, okay? Now, if I take you there, you will be, I'll just take off your regular wind cheaters and ask you to just stand like this in that particular winter day in the night. Now tell me, what will be your position? Your position will be this and you will be shivering like this, okay? Now when you are shivering like this, what does that mean? That is the instinct, that is a behavioral adaptation that you people have made because that particular environment is such that without wind cheaters you cannot survive, and that particular environment is such that if you are in the sun you will be sweating, okay, right? So that is basically structural and behavioral adaptation, that is natural or by a instinct, okay, right? Moving on, structural adaptations, okay? Now plants, they undergo structural adaptations, okay, to get food. Food is a major part for the plant. So the plants undergo adaptations to get food, major part, major major issue, food. Now, if you see this, okay, if you see this, you have a cactus plant here. Okay, you have a cactus plant here. Okay, now this cactus plant has a stem. This is a modified stem. Okay, right? Now this modified stem has thorns. Okay, now those thorns are basically what? They are the leaves. Okay, right? So the stem of the cactus plant is performing the photosynthesis. Basically, that is why it is green in color. Okay, right? It is green in color. Now, this cactus plant is perfectly adapted to survive in the desert. And because this is green, it can perform photosynthesis and we can get the actual food for the particular plant. Now, when we are coming to this plant, say for example, this is a plant which is green, has green leaves. Okay, so what this plant will do? Now, leaves and stems absorb energy from the sun. So, in the case of the cactus, you will have the leaves, that is a stem, which is green. It has adapted itself to be succulent, that is to be filled with water. Okay, and then you have this green plant here. Now this green plant is green in the leaves. Near the leaves part are broader because they have to be exposed to the sun to perform photosynthesis. So the plants have adapted structurally to get food. Okay, so plants have adapted structurally to get food. Okay, right? Am I clear? Now moving on. Now, if you see behavioral adaptations. Now, what I have done is I have given examples of structural adaptations and behavioral adaptations to get food. Okay, then we'll see the next property, that is structural adaptations and behavioral adaptations with respect to water and nutrients. Okay, right. So that is how I have divided this particular session. Okay, now structural adaptations we have seen stem and the leaf to prepare food. Now, behavioral adaptations. Now, when we come to behavioral adaptations, adaptations to get food in behavioral, you have plants lean or grow towards the sun. Okay, say for example, you have the sunflower plant which moves towards the sun. Okay, that is a instinct. That's a behavioral instinct. Okay, okay, right. So, if you see these plants here, this is the place where we have the sun. Okay, that is the place where the sun is coming. So, you can see these plants bending towards the sun. Okay, so plants lean or grow towards the sun. Okay, so this is what it is. One more example is your sunflower. Then, roots grow down into the soil. Okay, so roots always grow down into the soil. That is basically geotrophism. And plants moving towards the sun is phototrophism. Okay, now vines climb up the trees to catch sunlight. So you can see here in this example, you see a plant which is twined itself around the host plant here. Okay, and it is intertwined like this, and it is going upwards to catch the sunlight. Okay, right? So these are structural adaptations and behavioral adaptations to get food. Okay, now moving on. So you have structural adaptations to get water and nutrients. Okay, you have structural adaptations to get water and nutrients. Now, when you're talking about getting water and nutrients, you can see I have taken an example of grass. This is a grass. Okay, right? Now you see the roots which are exposed here. Okay, and if you can see them properly, they are spread across a very large area. Okay, these roots are spread across a very large area. Now you can see some roots here also. Okay, and you can see some roots here also. Now if you see here, this grass plant will be very, very difficult to pluck out because all these roots are holding that plant together, and in turn they are also holding the soil together. Okay, right? Now that is one adaptation, that is structural adaptation and these grasses, the roots go to a very long extent here. So you can see here also you have roots. Okay, so this plant spreads out its roots to a very long extent. So why do they do that? It is because the roots are the major sources where the water enters into the plant. Okay, the water will enter into the plant through the roots. Okay, right? So that is what is the structural adaptations of water and nutrients. Now, in the roots, from the roots itself, water and nutrients will enter into the plant. So that is why if you see, the roots are adapted. So the roots have grown into this length and the plant is only of this size. Okay, right? This is a grass plant. All right, children? Now, let's move on. Now, behavioral adaptations. Now, behavioral adaptations to get water and nutrients. Okay, behavioral adaptations to get water and nutrients. Now, one of the behavioral adaptation here is the desert plants. You can see here, this is a desert. Okay, part of a desert. Okay, now the desert plants, the flowers, whatever are there, they stay dormant until and unless it rains. Otherwise, they will not flower. Dormant means what? They don't flower at all. They don't blossom. The flowers don't blossom. So that's what I have written here. Desert flowers can stay dormant for months, only coming to life when it rains. Now, why is that? Now, if at all the flower blossoms, okay, even the flower has to be supplied with water and nutrients. The roots have to absorb more water for the flowers also. Okay, so what the plant does, the flowers become dormant. So it is an instinct, that is a desert instinct. Okay, right? So the flowers, they don't blossom. So when they don't blossom, the roots need not work extra to supply water and nutrients to that particular flower. Okay, now here you can see these flowers have bloomed because it is the rainy season. Okay, and now if you see the desert plants, most of the plants you'll see that they have dormant flowers on them. Okay, they don't blossom until and unless it's the rainy season. Now that is an instinct to absorb water and nutrients. Now this is one of the other adaptations that we have seen. That is, first one was food and water, or say food, I'll say. Second one is the water and nutrients. Okay, moving on. Now, structural adaptations in plants for reproduction. So don't mistake this hummingbird and this monarch butterfly here with animals, that we are doing animals. No, we are doing only plants here. Okay, right? So adaptations for reproduction. So reproduction is one of the major criteria for the living organisms. Okay, right? Now without reproduction, the organism species cannot continue further. The genes cannot be transferred further. So reproduction is very, very important. So because plants cannot move, you know that plants cannot move from one place to another. Okay, right? So when the plants cannot move from one place to another, then they have to adapt structurally in some way that they make something come to it and take the reproductive part. Okay, now that something is the insects and the birds. Okay, right? They can be any insect, it can be any bird here. Okay, right? Now, but insects, when they are white flowers, okay, when they are white, the flowers are not very attractive, they don't look nice. Okay, they will not come and fall on the flower, they'll not come to the flower. Now say for example, the shirt I'm wearing, I have red color stars and black color stars on it. Okay, now if an insect is coming to me, okay, when the light is there, when the bright light is there, it will directly come and land on the red star or the black star because they are colorful. It will not land on the white one. Okay, but in the night, because the insects cannot see, they will use the white background which I am wearing now. Okay, right? So the flowers have to be brightly colored for the insects to get attracted towards each other. Okay, the flowers have to be brightly colored. They have to throw something onto the insect. Okay, throw something on in the sense, okay, I am very bright, so you come to me and suck the nectar. Okay, right? So in order to attract the insects, what flowers will do is, first thing is, they have petals which are brightly colored like this. Okay, they have petals like this which are brightly colored. And then the second thing is, the insects, they come to the flowers for nectar. That is a sweet substance which is present in the flowers. So they come for the nectar. Now when they come for the nectar, automatically what will happen? If you see these small legs here, and if you see the beak here which is entering into the flower, okay, that beak and these legs, they'll be stuck up with the pollen grains. Okay, right? They'll be stuck with the pollen grains. So that is why they are called as pollinators. What are pollinators? Pollinators are insects or bees or birds. Okay, so through which the pollen grains are transported from one flower to the next flower of the same species. Okay, so say for example, if this monarch butterfly is there, it is landing on this marigold flower and it is going to another marigold flower of the same kind, carrying the pollen grains which is containing the male reproductive part. Okay, the pollen grains are containing the male reproductive part. So when they are containing the male reproductive part, if this monarch butterfly having the pollen grains on its legs goes and lands on the another flower of the same kind, then the fertilization will occur. Okay, right? So when the fertilization occurs, automatically a new flower will be born. So adaptation that the flowers have achieved here is being brightly colored. Okay, so brightly colored flowers with nectar attract pollinators such as birds, bees and insects. Okay, right? Okay, is that clear? Now moving on. Now we will see, okay, you'll not have instincts for behavioral reproductive. Okay, so these are some other examples of structural adaptations for reproduction. Say for example, the sweet fruit attracts animals that spread seeds far away. So you can see these are brightly colored pomegranates, these are brightly colored raspberries, and these are the dahlia flowers, dandelion flowers, or okay, right? You might have seen them flying in the air. Now they are bright in color because, why are they bright in color? Now sweet fruits attract animals that spread seeds far away, because the animals will just eat the fruit, okay, and they will disperse the seeds. Okay, so they are moving from one place to another and they are dispersing the seeds. Okay, right? Now some seeds are shaped to catch the wind. So you can see these dandelion flowers here, they are shaped, the seeds are flying off. So seeds are dispersed from one place to another. This is a mode of structural adaptation, okay, in reproduction. Now behavioral adaptation in reproduction. Now if you see behavioral adaptations in reproduction, you can see that plants drop seeds to grow new offsprings. Now you can see here this plant, it's a beetle plant. Now you have seen here, there is a seed in the center, okay, right? And here also you can see these seeds are dropped onto the ground, okay, right? Now what they do, plant drops seeds to grow new offspring. Simple. The behavioral adaptation is what? The plants are dropping the seeds at one part. Now the seeds generally they are heavy or they are light. If they are light, they are carried away by the wind or by water, and if they are heavy, they are carried away by the water or by the animals. Okay, right? Because animals are in search of food. Okay, so the plants depend in that way. Okay, moving on. Structural adaptations for defense. Defense. So you might have seen rose plant. This is a rose plant. Okay, so you can see the thorns here. Okay, right? So thorns are what? For defense. Now say for example, roses are very beautiful to see. Okay, now any animal will come and get attracted towards a rose plant because it is brightly colored. Okay, right? Now, if the plant has to sustain itself, it has to depend on pollinators, okay, not the animals. So, for defense purpose, the plants grow thorns around them. Okay, right? They grow small thorns. So, what happens if a plant is coming nearby it? Because these thorns are pointed. Okay, these thorns are what? They are pointed. So, they will go and prick the organism. Okay, they will not go, in fact, the organism will come towards the plant, and if the organism tries to go and eat the flower, they will, before that itself, they'll start, the organism will get caught up in the thorns. Okay, similarly, you can see this cactus plant also, you have a lot of thorns. Now, these thorns are nothing but modified leaves. Okay, in order to protect the plant from transpiration, excess transpiration. Okay, right? Now, so thorns are structural adaptations for defense. So we have seen how many? We have seen first for food, adaptations for food, then adaptations for water and nutrients, then adaptations for reproduction, and then we have seen adaptations for defense. Now, these are also adaptations for defense. Now, poison ivy and poison oak. So this is poison ivy and this is poison oak. Have toxins that give predators a painful itchy rash. Now say for example, if I take this poison ivy, okay, I have also encountered this poison ivy before when one of my friend, when I was young, okay, he took that plant and came and I tried to snatch it from him, okay, because it was looking good. It was looking just like that. It was very colorful. Okay, now what he did, he just rubbed that leaf on my hand like this. Now when he started rubbing it, what happens? My hand started itching a lot. It developed red rashes. Okay, now why is that? It is actually a defense mechanism of this particular ivy plant, okay, or the oak plant. So if any organism comes to it and tries to eat the leaf, then what happens? Because of that itchiness, okay, they have toxins. Now because of the toxins on the leaf, the predators will get a painful itchy rash. That's what I had received. Okay, so that is defense. One is thorns and the other one is releasing toxins. Okay, then moving on. Okay, so releasing toxins. Now, behavioral adaptations you don't see much in defense. Okay, right? Okay, so I hope that you have understood these structural adaptations. Okay, now in the next session, we will be looking at plant adaptations for different biomes, that is different ecosystems. Okay, right? So I hope that you have understood the structural and behavioral adaptations. Okay, I'll see you in the next session. Thank you so much.